Arguing and bustling, gangsters of Gotham, hardcore hustling.
Right before we went to break, we were talking about Mr. Obama.
Well, let's talk about his policies.
I wish it was different.
Yo, this ain't no time whether you use you want to sue them all.
I wish we had a true radio show.
We don't. When you see a 9% approval rating of Congress, people just want action and ideas.
You know, you want to sue them all.
Digital radio.
Just because you get off welfare, all of a sudden jobs are created.
Jobs will be created.
Cut spending, cut spending,
Right.
cut spending.
But
when you say specifically, do you want cut? They never have anything they want
that's not
specifically
true.
cut.
That's not true. So the next best thing, if government is proven irresponsible with our money, then give it to Wall Street. Let them invest it for me. Let my Charles Schwab guy invest it for me. Wall Street is not some nebulous, big, giant head. Republicans come out with an idea to privatize Social Security, and the left jumps down and thought, oh, this is ridiculous, I don't want my money. Yet and still, you don't have any money because the government wasted it.
This is the ugly truth.
Digital radio show.
It's time that our women stop stealing and carry the whole load. And it's time that we raise these boys to be entrepreneurs and not worker ants for a corporation.
God brought me back to lay testimony to track. Trying to show you where your flaws at. And the serpent don't like that. I know change hurts. But you can rewind my verse, homie, and meet me in church. Cause he changed the leopard to a shepherd.
This is the ugly truth.
Digital radio show.
If you like to support your own, come to the Green Room Actors Lounge.
Breathe in and inhale vapors from bright stars to shine. Breathe out, we smoke, retrace the skyline. Heard the bass ride out like an ancient mating call. I can't take it, y'all. I can feel the city breathing, chest heaving against the flesh of the evening. Sigh before it died like the last train leaving.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We've been on hiatus for a couple of days, but we are back. It's the Ugly Truth Radio. I'm Tommy Bottoms. Got a long-time friend of the show sitting in with us today. Shelly ain't going to be here today. Got my man Ed Forball of What Matters Films in the building with us. And we got some eye candy sitting on the couch today. I'm sorry, I always get distracted. You might have told me your name 100 times, but, you know. Keela sitting in the middle. She don't want to be on camera, which I'm not sure why, but I mean, let me quit being like that. I'm just saying, it's just usually a bunch of sausage fest going on. Oh wait, no, I forget. Alicia being here, but she's like one of the guys now, so it's different. You know, you ain't met Alicia yet.
Yeah, I met her once before.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lot been going on since we've been off. You know what I'm saying? So I think we'll jump right off into the Scott Walker recall election that went on yesterday. A lot of people pissed off. That's all I can say. And you kind of said it a little earlier. You kind of felt that people voted against their own interests. And for people that don't know what's going on in Wisconsin over the last few months, 6, 7, 8 months or whatever, they've been going through with a recall of Governor Scott Walker in Wisconsin because basically they felt that you know he was democratically elected and a Republican governor. Once he got in, they felt he was overreaching what his promises were as far as a governor, which actually was not true. He pretty much said what he was going to do, and when he came in, he did just that. The state of Wisconsin basically had they were trying to balance the budget. They had a deficit budget, and Scott Walker was like, well, what we're going to do is we need to have state workers. We want to get rid of their collective bargaining rights, as well as they need to pay more into their pensions and take certain pay cuts. And basically the labor unions in the workers of Wisconsin basically said, hell no, we ain't having it. And this is where it got tricky, because when all this fight was going on, that people remember they were protests everywhere. Thousands of people were showing up on both sides, mostly for the labor side. The Tea Party didn't really show up like they tried to portray on like the Fox News. It was mostly the labor and the people, the folks that really actually hit the streets and was, you know, hitting the city halls and the state buildings and everything, saying we're not with this. And what ended up happening was basically they were saying, look, we'll concede all of these. We'll say, listen, we'll take the pay cuts. We'll pay more into our pensions, but do not eliminate our right to collective bargain as far as, you know, for state workers. And basically Scott Walker said, no, That's not happening. Which basically, from what it ended up being, they felt this was an ideological war from the beginning. It was never about balancing the budget, because if the workers are saying we'll concede everything you need as far as balancing the budget, but now you don't take away our right to collective bargain. This is, excuse me, as workers, this is the only thing that gives us any type of power as against management. And so basically, they had a recall because of, and just to fast forward a little bit, they had a recall. It got very, very heated over the last several months. They even called it a civil war going on in Wisconsin. The entire nation has been watching because they felt like this particular recall election was kind of indicative of what's going on nationally and what it can mean nationally as far as the presidential general election coming up in November. And so basically what ended up happening, a lot of money was spent. The Scott Walker team raised $34 million or $38 million or something like that to, I think the candidate's name was John Barnett, who was the mayor of Milwaukee, who actually was the person who ran against Scott Walker in the original race. They only raised $4 million and had a record turnout, and Scott Walker won. And for a lot of people, they say this is indicative of what's, nationally, this was a referendum on not just the labor union, but as Obama as well, which I kind of disagree with. Scott Walker was elected by the people, so really, to me, the upset would have been if the recall would have went into effect. Excuse me. So I think, but I do kind of agree with what you said earlier. I think this was one of those things where, when you spend a lot of money, you can't convince people to go against their own interests.
Oh, most definitely.
And I think that's the thing that really kind of boggles my mind in all this is that there was a lot. This thing was heated on what side you stood on. Particularly, like I said, the main anger came from the side of the people, the labor unions in Wisconsin, and it's gotten ugly to the point where people are, they're showing on Twitter where everybody's giving death threats to Scott Walker, kill Scott Walker, and people are very upset on the left or the liberals or whatever. But I think this was the same anger we saw with the Tea Party when Obama got got elected. But the main difference is that there was no fundamental change coming about as far as what the Tea Party was pissed off about. This was something that's going to affect this removing the collective bargaining rights, whether you agree with it or not, is a fundamental change. Something that nobody's seen, nothing that anybody's seen with Obama, especially in the first 3 or 4 months when he came in office, when they were already protesting on the White House lawn. There was no fundamental change in anybody's everyday life. You know what I'm saying? Other than so that's why I if Shelley was here, he would would definitely disagree. But there was that element of there's something different in the office, and I'm pissed off, and I'm not sure why. But these people in Wisconsin had a definite, tangible, something that they can feel, fundamental change that was going to change their everyday lives. People might have been pissed off about Obamacare, but I guarantee you in 10 years you won't be able to take Obamacare away from you. You know what I'm saying? You try to if you want. Mm-hmm. So there's no fun, but this was, whether you agree with it or not, there was a fundamental change that's going to be, and it was so, that's why it was so emotional. Unions have, been the backbone of America for the last, little less than a century. You know what I'm saying? And created the middle class and has maintained what left is the middle class that there is. So I can see why people be pissed off. I think the recall wasn't necessarily. I don't know. I do believe in the democratic process. He was democratically elected. He ran on that. He said this is what he was going to do. Next time you have to get more involved. But I do understand people's anger, and it's kind of funny. Like I said, the same anger that you saw with the Tea Party. But the Tea Party anger was kind of all over the place.
You can buy an election.
Well, they've been saying that. You know what I'm saying? And, they raised a lot of money. But it also got a lot of people involved, for, the good or bad of it. You know what I mean?
Well, it was an important fact that came out, even with Scott Walker winning the election. It was exit polling done to find out, how everybody was going and where they were looking to go. And also in the presidential election, even in this, with Scott Walker winning, in the exit polling, Barack Obama, when they questioned more people still wanted to go for Barack Obama again. And it was a more of a Republican-leaning vote for Scott Walker, but more people wanted Barack Obama.
Well, I think, like I said, it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Because this is, Barack Obama is already already has problems with the white male vote, and so I think, or the working class white male vote. I think the more educated you become, the more you're leaning towards. Or more professional you are, the more you lean toward Obama. But that working class white male vote,
blue collar,
exactly. So that's going to say a lot for this. But it's going to be interesting because this is what when it comes down to the 99 versus the 1%, the whether it's Bain Capital versus venture capital versus vulture capital capitalists. All those things are going to tie in because this is where we're at. They just came out with a poll. I don't know if you guys seen this. They just came out with a poll that America, more than race, gender, or class, is more divided along partisan lines more than any other time in the last 25 to 40 years. And more than race, although I think all those things are used to create the partisan division, but people are now really divided between them, whether they're liberal or conservative, Democrat, Republican. This is where the division in America is: red state, blue state. Whose side are you on? Right here in Wisconsin, you know what I'm saying? They were talking about how they just had an article, the New York Times, a few days ago, just talking about how it's tearing family members apart, because within people's families, people are. I'm with Scott Walker, I'm not with him, and I ain't talking to you now. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that, because you look at the number of recall petitions that came in, but that's not the complete household. So it was a tough decision, and for that to happen, because when you look at families making that decision from one to go one way and one to go another, it's putting a strain on everybody. That's a burden that nobody wants to have in their household.
I got something in the chat room. Trey Sack 305. Where does the black community use its collective vote with the upcoming election? How do we strategically leverage the voting power after emotions of having a black president wear off? I think that's a good question. One, we got to have an agenda, and the agenda, has not been there, which is pretty much why Barack Obama is not relying on the black vote, or not counting on the black vote as much as he is the gay vote, which is why he came out and saying I'm in favor of gay marriage, because that is going to be the new energized voting block for this 2012 election. So he's hoping, I don't know that he can count on us black people to be as energized, because like Trey Sack says, the emotion of the black president has kind of wore off.
And see, that's the thing that gets me with the black community. Everything is a fad with the black community. And that's something that really irritates me, is why everything is a fad with us. It doesn't last but a minute. Oh, that was last year. That was 2 months ago. We don't have a straightforward, like you say, agenda. Something that's going to
we never have, though.
Fast and true.
We never have, and that goes to, I think, speaks to our leadership. They've kind of played us, played on our emotions. Just like right now, they're talking about Voting Rights Act, and this is the new what do you call it, to poll taxes and things like that, which is none of that is true. You know what I'm saying? But people are playing on the emotions of black people. Most of our leaders are still running on the idea that, what do you do? What have you done for the black community? Well, 40 years ago I marched.
So it sounds like you're bringing up our own congressman here.
Well, yeah, it's not just him, but just in general, that's pretty much how people play toward the black community, strictly emotional. Yeah. And we've got to be smarter. You know, that's the $1 million question, is how to get us mobilized. We were able to get mobilized in this last election because of the idea of a black president. Now that it has worn off, you know, that the novelty of it, for not just black people, for everybody. Everybody's gotten used to seeing a black president. You know,
but we've been seeing a white president for a long what makes it any different?
What makes it different, because, like I said, it was something different. People have gotten used to seeing him being in the office. Are there still people uncomfortable with it? Definitely, definitely. But for the most part, this fight now is completely political and ideological. It has very little to do with race anymore. Now, people like Trump will come out and they'll kind of try to drum up little racial tensions with birth certificates and things like that. But
that's
for the most part,
hungry.
well, that's for the most part, people are I mean, this just like I said, this situation in Wisconsin, to go back to that, was completely an ideological war. Whether people support the right of collective bargaining. This isn't just for collective bargaining in general, but specifically collective bargaining for state workers. And the problem what people have is that with state workers, just to give the other side of it, why I understand why people would want to get rid of them. If you're a state worker, you know, basically what you can do is pull your resources from the labor, the collective bargaining, and vote the guy in who is going to basically give you the most stuff. So that's what the argument is that it's almost a conflict of interest. You know, they're not necessarily an outside group. So I can understand that, but I'm always going to stand up for, you know, the ability of workers to collective bargain. I think that's the backbone of a healthy economy and keeps us from being a third world situation. That's just my opinion, you know. Let me see here. I thought Johnny 56 in the chat room. Now's the time to support no president. Now is the time to support no president can do much in the first term other than trying to get reelected. Well, I mean, that's what, you know, there's something to be said about that, because, you know, we
were too far in the hole for a first term president to do anything that's going to make a major change right away. You know, like Obama said when he got in office, he said it's going to take more than 2 terms with me.
Yeah.
You know, so, but people don't look at that realistic block. You know, I can say America is that we want it now country. Instantly.
Well, the thing is that, you know, they play politics with it, but the economy is going to do what it's going to do. It has rises, it falls. The main issue is what government's role plays in how the natural cycle of the economy, and that's really what the argument is. Because when you're the president, your role is to be the president of everyone, whether it's the rich and the poor. So your role is, what ideologically is, do I cut taxes for rich? Do I deregulate certain industries, which is what a Romney might fall on? Or do I, when there's a certain unemployment rate, do I help out certain people? When people are losing jobs, do I extend the unemployment insurance? Which is what someone on the left would do. And these are fundamental questions that, you know, ideologically, you know what I mean, is the role of the government, and I think Obama is actually trying to make that argument, but he's trying to make an intellectual argument in a world that is just crazy, just angry, and just all they want to hear is sound bites. And when he was making the argument about Bain Capital, he was making an argument that if Romney's going to run on this idea that I am a businessman and I know how to run a business, basically Obama's premise is that, look, that's fine. I have no problem with capitalism. I have no problem with people doing well and doing financially well, but that's not how the government works. If you want this job, you have to be concerned about everybody, not just the bottom line and just not profits. Because just like you could say I'm a job creator, you're also a job eliminator, if that is what the bottom line calls for. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he created Staples, and he created thousands of jobs. But if tomorrow he needed to cut 3,000 jobs to help the bottom line, that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? So as the role as the president, you know what I'm saying, you have to say, you know, well, what am I going to do with these other 3,000 people who will be out of work?
That's
You know what I'm saying? Do I provide some type of safety net for them? You know what I'm saying? I can't just be worried about the people at the top. I have a whole lot of people to be worried about. And that's the fundamental question. You know what I mean? It's going on all over the world right now. You know, that fundamental question, are you going to, the economy is, the capitalism is being tested to its limits right now. Not just in Wisconsin, not just in America as a whole, but all over the world. In Greece, Spain, what the fundamental idea of what capitalism is being tested right now. And these are the fundamental questions that we have to answer or have to have the discussion about. Of who this problem is political in the sense that for the last 40 or 50 years, politicians have promised a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people. They promised tax cuts to rich people and promised these huge safety nets to the people at the bottom. And people have gotten used to these things. Well, and now the check is coming due. Whether it's Greece, whether it's in Spain, everybody's going through the exact same thing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right here in America, it's the exact same thing. We promised a lot of people a lot of things. Now the bill is due. Excuse me. So these are the fundamental questions of who's gonna bear the burden of it. And what's been happening is, particularly in Greece, is they said, you know, we're going to put it on the back of the people at the bottom, which is why they're in the streets, which is why they're in the streets in Wisconsin. You're not going to tell the same time that they took away they were attempting to take away the collective bargaining rights in Wisconsin. They at the same time they had just gave a $500 million tax cut to corporations in Wisconsin. And then they're saying, oh, how the hell are you going to tell me you got a budget deficit? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you just gave a corporation corporation, it was more than several, $500 million in tax credits. You know what I'm saying? That and you're telling me I need to take a little bit more out of my check. You know what I'm saying? I'm already check to check. You know what I'm saying? But you wanna make sure I'm losing an extra $100 a month. You know what I'm saying?
But see, people still believe in trickle down economics.
Voodoo economics.
But that's what people still believe in, and it's a joke. It's a true joke. There is no trickle down economics.
But the reality of it is that and most economists will agree, and that the tax, the austerity measures in Europe, particularly in England and Greece, and in Spain, Portugal, the austerity measures have worsened the recession there, because you can't cut spending in bad economic times. It only makes sense in a 30-second soundbite. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But you can't cut spending. Do you have to cut spending in the long term? Yes. But in the middle of the recession, no. You can't do it. You've got to eat. I mean, this goes all the way back to Adam Smith. Adam Smith, who was considered one of the architects of modern capitalism, even says the same thing. You can't cut during bad economic times. You can't cut government spending. This is what keeps you afloat. Cutting government spending only puts you further and further deeper into the recession. But it does have to be a combination of increased taxes. At the very least, we've got to get rid of the tax loopholes, the ability to people push the money across seas and to avoid taxes in America. You've got to eliminate those type of loopholes. Because you need the revenue. And that's what it comes down to. So if it comes down to everybody sharing in it, everybody has to share in it. And that's the fundamental question that's going on right now, is who's going to share in this thing that called capitalism. That's crumbling.
Greed.
Crumbling.
You know, everybody wants to hold on to what they, and that's one of the biggest things. And a prime example of what you're saying is right here in Atlanta with the stadium. Why does a billionaire want us in Metro Atlanta to pay for a stadium for him to make money? That's us to pay for a stadium. That's the big question. Why do I have to pay you to build a stadium?
Well, everybody does it. That's what all them T-motors do.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense though. And then you're not gonna give me a discount on that ticket. You're not gonna give me a free day to come in and enjoy a game.
No, they look at it like that's some job. Somebody got to build it. Somebody got to be working there. I mean,
but that's short term.
Every team in professional sports puts it on the city that they're in. Buy me a new stadium, or we're gone. You know, and they know what that means. I mean, And I know that's a great point though. You know what I'm saying? But every team owner does the same thing.
I wonder who started that.
Well, I don't know who started. I think the NFL sees itself, or just talk about the NFL in general. I mean, they just see themselves as, man, we're huge. You want us here. And any city wants an NFL team if they can get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it helps everybody from. I mean, if you're a waitress, trust me. When they had the strike going on, trust me, them bars and them taverns, trust me, they was getting hit. Because people flood these. I mean, I watch football on Sunday. I spend my money drinking and eating wings. And if you're the waitress, if you relying on tips. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's big business, which is why anybody, if you can get the Super Bowl, boy, it's good money if you can get it. You know what I'm saying? It's good money if you can get an NBA All-Star game in your city. And that's how these teams, this is how the NFL, the NBA, even Major League Baseball look at it. Like, look, I'm bringing a whole lot to the table. You know what I'm saying? People go depressed if you in the Green Bay, what the hell else is to do?
Yeah.
When football season ain't cracking. You know what I'm saying? Imagine you taking football out of Green Bay or Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When they almost revolted in Cleveland when they moved them to Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? To where they said, look, we gonna get y'all a team and y'all be able to keep the name and everything. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, this is what these blue collar cities work. This is what I bust my ass all week for a job I can't stand. Just so I can root for my favorite team during, for 17, 20 weeks during the year. You know what I'm saying? And another 6 weeks for
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about the American dream? Is there still an American dream?
I mean, that's the question right now. Who is the American dream available to? Who is it available to as far as accessibility? To that whatever that American dream is, and I think through TV and media, really I think the American dream now has become somewhat of a pie in the sky, almost unobtainable. Now which also went into the housing crisis that went on a few years ago. This idea that I have to have bigger and better all the time. There's people are, a cribs mentality. And I ain't talking about hood nigga crib. I ain't talking about that hood mentality. I'm just talking about in general, the average American is constantly looking for the mini mansion. You know what I'm saying? It's not quite sad, which is what you had. You had so many homes. Now, people and a lot of times they make the housing crisis was like, oh, it was a bunch of people who were buying these, homes, $100,000, $150,000 homes. That was part of it. But there was a lot of people out here buying $500,000, $800,000 homes they had no business buying. You know what I'm saying? Had good jobs, but you know what I'm saying? But, they were buying these huge homes they could not afford. And that was that mentality of, I need that on TV. So I think there's this hyper consumerism that we've all bought into has played a part into what is capital? That's another part of what is this capitalism? Is it all we're going to be as consumers? Because we don't make anything anymore. So when are we going to add that back to it? If we're constantly consumers, and that's the only thing that we add to it, eventually, you know what I'm saying, you're going to out-consume. You know what I mean? You can only consume so much to where you can afford. There's only so much you can put on your credit card.
Apple's coming back.
You know what I'm saying? They ain't bringing no jobs, though. You know what I'm saying? They ain't bringing no jobs. Huh? Ain't gonna bring no jobs. Because I could pay freaking a cat in China 75% less.
They gonna do a better job, though.
Say what? Who cultural. That's cultural, though. Because they're just disciplined people in general. You know what I'm saying? They're just disciplined. And that just goes even with us here, in Bloomberg, having to tell Americans, slow down on the sodas. You know what I'm saying? But the government shouldn't be jumping in telling us that. But it's almost like, that's the kind of same mentality. Because the first thing, I should be able to drink a 64-ounce soda. But what ends up happening is 20 years down the line, you got healthcare problems that you can't afford. But you want to do everything because I feel like doing it with absolutely no sense of responsibility.
That's the American way.
You know what I'm saying? Now when you try to tell people, you know what? Everybody got to have a skin in the game in this healthcare debate. You got to go out and buy some insurance because you're all going to get sick eventually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to get sick, so you got to put some skin in the game, you know. But everybody, I shouldn't have to do it. That's fine, but stop showing up to the emergency room. You know what I'm saying? When you know what I'm saying, I tell you the first when all these people who say I don't want Obamacare and I don't want the government telling me this and this and I want the government to stat everything and it should be just private insurance companies handle everything. First time you ain't got no insurance and the ambulance show up, your child is laid out on the side of the street, head gushing with blood, and they say, "Ma'am, you got your insurance card?" Or no insurance, ambulance pull off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's when you'll see people changing their minds about what private insurance really looks like. Right now, we have universal health care, but nobody's paying in it. You know what I'm saying? So, but the first time you see somebody out, you know, when it really happens.
Or when somebody needs an operation.
Yeah.
You know, and they say, well, you 90 years old. We're not gonna do this triple bypass on you because
you
90 years old. We're not gonna get our money back anyway. So why we gonna put this hard in you?
But like Tommy said, we've been paying it all along. When Joe Blow, you know, been out on the street for 10 years, come in the hospital. Who's paying for it? We the taxpayer. The taxpayer. They just put a name on it and made it seem evil, but it's nothing that hadn't already been happening.
All it is saying, let's add some more money to the pot. Saying, even if only thing you're gonna do is pay the fine, which is what a lot of people will do. A lot of people will just pay the fine because the fine is not. It's like $100 for the year. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing like really crazy. If you choose not to do it, you know what I'm saying? You'll get a fine, and that's what a lot of people. It'll be cheaper, so to speak, just to pay the fine than to pay whatever the monthly rate will be. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of it is, but that's that mentality of I want it, but I don't necessarily want to pay for it. I should have to. I want to drink my sodas. I want to drink
but you
this.
can say the same thing about taxes, though.
What's that?
The same situation for the tax.
Yeah.
Like if you had a universal tax where everything was embedded in everything you purchased and whatnot, it would eliminate a lot of stuff. But again, by doing that, you're getting rid of the IRS.
Yeah.
System.
But what also ends up happening though is taxes like that. It ends up being a regressive tax. People who are poor end up paying a much higher percentage in taxes than that's where it becomes people are looking at it with I know what you mean with that, but people look at it as a regressive because if people who are at that lower income, those people who are on just the cusp, they're paying a higher percentage in their taxes than a person who is much more well-to-do as far as their proportion of their income. And that's what all they're trying to do is say, you need to, if you make more, you need to pay more. That's kind of what since the 60s is kind of the mentality has been. Now that tax rate has dropped considerably since the 50s and 60s, but the main idea is the more you make, the more you should have to pay.
That's true, but it's a different type of tax. One is an income tax.
Yeah.
And one is a capital gains tax. So that's the way it was always set up on. So if you just had a flat tax across the board, initially it would be shock, but that's the point we're at right now. In a global economy, that's where we're at in the world, right? But eventually, it would balance out. But the question is everyone willing to take that first initial hit? Because either way it goes, just like the healthcare situation, either way it goes, it's gonna hurt. It's like your first prostate exam; it's gonna hurt.
Well, I think I said.
So it's like, okay.
But when do you?
But we will find out what's wrong with you, and if you do have cancer, and we can treat it and fix it, and you'll be good to go if we catch it early.
Yeah, I know. I've heard the argument for flat tax. I'm not for the flat tax. I still believe. Now, what I do believe is you get rid of you get rid of the loopholes. If let's say we don't increase nothing.
Right, but
let's just get rid of the loopholes.
But within a flat tax, right? I don't necessarily agree it has to be as high as they projected it should be, but I think it would make things easier because the problem with the tax code right now is no one person can decipher the tax code. So
yeah, that's true.
So within
only people that can decipher is the people who can hire the lawyers to be able to do it.
But even with them, you know what I'm saying? if you make something so difficult that you can't decipher it, there's gonna be loopholes.
That's why it's written. I mean, because who pays for it to be written that way?
Exactly. But if you had a flat tax across the board, there is no discussion about what needs to be paid.
But that's just it.
If the tax is 17% on the dollar, it's 17%.
But that's what I'm saying.
But they don't want it.
Well, no,
because then you would diminish the power.
But the point is when it's a flat tax like that, if I'm here at the bottom, I'm paying a higher percentage of my income in taxes as opposed to the people who make much, much more.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Because if you have a person that has an income of $1,000 a month, and you have a person that has an income of $100,000 a month, right?
17% hurts me. 17% of somebody who's making $1 million a year. That's nothing.
You're thinking about the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're still gonna buy the basic essentials that you need for your household.
Listen, poor people already.
If a person is making $100,000, they're gonna actually spend more into it because they're buying more things. They're buying more items.
Well, I can definitely vouch when you say making that at that 100,000 mark. Pay mark, I was there, and I could see it'll be times that I pay in a year's time in taxes about $14,000. And then that's a big hit.
It doesn't matter across the board, like we talked about last week.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm
to
saying
a millionaire, right? If you went and spent $5,000 a pop, it's still $5,000. Now one can afford it. One can afford it, but one can't.
Exactly. That's the thing. If I'm making
it across the board,
if the idea that a millionaire, a guy who makes $1 million a year, should pay the same tax rate as a person that's making $30,000 a year, you know what I'm saying?
But it's you can't put it on the tax rate or whatnot. You put it in the embedded taxes.
But you're still paying you're still paying the tax rate.
You are, but it's different though. You can't look at it that way because the person that has $1 million or whatnot is buying way more. And
no, he's not. That's the whole. Rich people already spend a lesser percentage of their income than poor people.
We could look at somebody like a Neil Bortz, right? Who he very well to do multimillionaire, right? And the average Joe Blow on the street, right? Neil has a considerable expense, just a living expense, that's going to force him to buy.
But what percentage of it?
And consume way more than this person over here is consuming.
No.
He has airplanes.
That's not how it works.
It does.
That's not how it
works.
Rich people,
if the tax is embedded on everything,
he's writing everything off.
Rich people pay.
If you have a flat tax, you can't write it off.
Rich people pay,
and they definitely won't let that happen.
You can't write it off.
They definitely won't.
If the tax rate was 17% across the board, it's nothing to write off. It's 17%.
But that means
if he pays for gas for his boat, he's paying tax. If he's paying transportation and whatnot for his aircrafts and whatnot, right, and the taxes that he pays to to house all this stuff, he's paying 70%.
So you think the person over here doesn't pay that. So you think that Warren? This goes back to the Warren Buffett rule.
You can't.
It's the exact same thing. You're paying a percentage.
He's paying a capital gains tax. The other one's paying an income tax. It's two different things. But if you had the flat tax, you wouldn't have neither.
Listen, you can't. It's a regressive tax code, the flat tax, because it ends up being the people who are at the bottom end up paying a higher percentage of their income in taxes.
How?
It's the exact same. If you're paying taxes, regardless of how they collect it, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of how it's collected, you're still paying a 17% rate of taxes. Regardless of how you pay for it.
Yeah, but $1,000 you pay 17%.
Okay, let's say 17%. So what?
So if somebody making $1 million or whatnot, they paying
so what if
$1,070.
So what if it's okay? Is that
they paying more?
Is that include the state tax too?
What do you mean? Yeah.
So you got to.
They can't do. They won't do.
No, wait a minute.
What I'm saying is this is what you would have to do to make that work. You can't have a
that's
flat tax.
That's what the 999 was.
You can't have a flat tax or whatnot for the. That's not what it was exactly, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
headed
it was.
To. That's what it was headed to, but that's not exactly what it was.
999 was 9% 9% tax rate on your income, 9% tax rate on corporate tax, and 9% on sales tax. That's what the 999 was. This is on the national sales tax.
But this is a start. We have to start someplace, right? The current tax system does not work. So you have to
get rid of the loopholes.
So you can't what I'm saying is you can't get rid of the loopholes and whatnot because they don't know where the loophole exists and whatnot.
No, they do.
No, until the situation comes up.
Because somebody wrote them. They know exactly where they're at.
No.
Because somebody wrote them. And the people who wrote them got paid by certain interests to write those codes in there. They know exactly where those codes are.
So if they know where they're at, wouldn't you agree or whatnot if you had just a flat tax that everybody could understand?
No, I believe in simplifying the tax code. I'm with you there. I'm definitely with you there. Because the people who are able to, there's a certain group of people who are able to take advantage of a complicated tax code. And it's complicated for a reason. So that only a few people can afford to take advantage of it. And that's why, we definitely need to simplify the tax code. I definitely agree with you there. But I don't believe in the flat tax because, like I said, you end up paying a person, particularly on the cusp of poverty or right there between working class and middle class, ends up taking the hardest hit.
I don't see how they take the hardest
hit. Because
they're
paying a bigger percentage of their...
Well, look, if I
17% of 1,000 and 17% of the million is...
Well, look, if I couldn't itemize, I would have been in bad shape. But with the flat tax, I wouldn't have been able to itemize, and that would have shown up hurt me. Overall, I would have been still paying more taxes on top of the high percent of the taxes that I paid during that year.
But if you had flat tax, you wouldn't be itemizing. What's the itemizer if you're paying a flat tax? Everything's already paid for already. That's what I'm saying. We get confused and whatnot because we're not saying what that would entail. The flat tax, there wouldn't be any additional taxes or whatnot. I'm talking about across the board, period. This is what it is. When a dollar is spent, 17% of every dollar that is spent or whatnot, that money would be divided with the government or whatever, and whatever's needed. Or whatnot,
so it wouldn't be no more April 17th.
It wouldn't be none of that. Oh. It wouldn't be none of that.
Let me ask you. Let me put it to you like this.
Our people would be mad because they use that as a savings.
But no, let me ask you this.
Our people would be the ones that say.
Let me ask you this.
That's why we're bitching about it.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Okay, let's say I was making $30,000 a year. Let's just say it's a 50.
Use an even number. Use like
30,
I'm like,
50.
No, like 10. Let's say 10 because we can move the decimal point. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say it's 50%. Okay. Let's say it's 50. The tax rate is 50%.
No,
for everybody.
No, you can't say no because that's unfair. That's unfair. 50% of all your income, and that's completely unfair. And that's unreasonable. So let's
okay. But I'm just trying to give you the
say 20%.
Okay.
Because we can't.
Okay, so that would be if I make 20% of, let's say I make $50,000. $20% of that is 10%. That's $10,000 in taxes. That's
right.
that's $40,000 that I'm living on, right?
Right.
Or excuse me, yeah, $40,000.
$40,000 you living on.
All right. Now let's say I make $500,000 a year.
500,000.
Okay, $500,000. Now that's 400,000. You think a person? You know what I'm saying? I'm doing okay.
Pretty good. Yeah.
You're okay. And that's what I'm saying. So the person who's making the 30,000 is taking the bigger hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or 50,000.
But they spending more money.
But this is the thing: things aren't getting any cheaper. Your food is still expensive.
Exactly, but within that and whatnot, you got to look at the reasons why that is. The reason why it is whatnot, because we importing all this stuff and whatnot, we're not doing stuff that's local.
Well, yeah,
so
one thing
we to that too.
We paying the farmers, not the farms.
Exactly. So and you give them incentives not to do this, whatever over here, and it creates almost like a situation where you got famine. You know what I'm saying? Like we're paying. Why are you paying farmers not to farm? Yeah. So why are you adding all these preservatives in the food to keep the food longer? Why? Because you're shipping food that's sold in Georgia from California. Why are you doing that when you have local people here to produce food here?
And that's one of the things.
It's got to be cheaper to produce it here than it is over there.
But that's
because somebody in the government got their hand in investment in the company over in California.
But see, it all leads back to health, and what you're saying is all it's a cause and effect for everything, because you look at it. One of the things that they say is the cause of obesity now is because we have everything all the time. And basically having everything out, we don't eat in season like we used to. So that means it affects us with health, the cost. So everybody's profiting off of everything going wrong. That's the way it looks.
This is why we have with the agricultural subsidies is back in the 30s. When you had the Dust Bowl and everything, right, and the Depression,
right,
one of the programs that the government came up with to help the farmers, when this was back when farmers were just like you were said, local people producing the food, in order to make sure that they were okay. So they basically was price fixing in order that they would be, so no matter what,
they would make a certain amount of money when
they were going to make exactly. So fast forward 60 years. Well, now the farms are not these little local mom and pop things anymore. These are big corporations, and most of the people who own these farms now couldn't tell you anything about an acre of nothing.
Which there's only 4 companies right now.
But so what ends up happening is these people still take advantage of these agricultural subsidies in order to produce very, very cheap food. But this is why McDonald's can give 99-cent cheeseburgers and fries that are, because they're cooked. It all comes from corn subsidies. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way that almost goes back into
and corn genetically can be formed in any kind of food. And that's what's killing us
high
also.
fructose corn
Exactly.
syrup. All these things come from corn. The bad meat.
Feeding cows with corn when corn
exactly.
not supposed to eat corn
because it's cheap.
Grass.
It's very cheap. So if I'm McDonald's, I'm not trying to get rid of that low cost because the government is subsidizing my ability to sell this stuff not just in America but all over the world, causing health problems all over the world.
Making money off it.
So
I take that. You got to take. Now this is the point, Tommy. You said all over the world, but this is the thing that you understand when you go to when these restaurants go to places like China and all those places. Their food is different. That same hamburger is that we eat here is not going to be the same over there. It's going to be 99% of the time. It's going to be better. It's like with the with the red dye. Every country bans the red dye except for the United States, and the FDA knows it causes cancer.
But I'm gonna give you a little different just to give some perspective to that. In China, do you know what the most trusted food is in China?
No, I
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
As opposed to their home.
What it is. See, the thing is, they know because we're so highly regulated, our food. They know that they know what you're getting. They understand that it's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? But they know that it's not getting ready to be some 8-day-old chicken. It's not getting ready to kill you. As opposed to certain other restaurant chains in China or just food supply chains in China that aren't as trustworthy. You know what I'm saying? So there goes a part to the regulation, the same regulation we love to complain about. You know what I'm saying? Other people look at it like, I'm glad that's some, but that's just to give a broader a look at.
Shout out to Sarana in the chat room. She said, yes, the food is different in other countries. My husband is from India. And he says the McDonald's and Pizza Hut there
because they have
suited to what Indians eat.
Yeah, exactly. They have to. Yeah, and most of those people don't eat there.
Right.
Most of those people they work there. They don't necessarily eat there. You know what I'm saying?
In the United States, you go into an Asian restaurant here, whatnot.
Yeah.
You'll see them. You have people.
Yeah.
You look in the back, you see the kids eating. They're not eating
nothing on that.
Anything like what they're serving you.
That's true.
It's those they look at McDonald's as jobs. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll there's going to be a youth culture that indulges in American, whatever is American and hip, but for the most part they don't really even the cultural difference is that, like, when I was in Europe, they don't even have supersized anything. That's not even part of their culture. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember I went over there and I said, let me get a large, and they brought out the joint that's smaller than the size is smaller than this. Whatever, what's that here? Like our small. This is like what, a medium, or you know what I'm saying?
That's beginning to be the small right
like
now.
If you go to Burger King, this is the small.
It's beginning to be the small.
I asked for a large, and they brought me out the small joint, and I was like, no, I asked for a large, and they was like, that is the large. I was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? But nobody even wants it's in our culture. It's like everything more and more and more. You know what I mean? I can't just nothing is in well proportioned. The fact that people would sit there. I understand the idea of freedom of choice, but people would want to put their foot down on their right to have a 64-ounce big gulp. Is crazy. This is what you want to put your foot down on. And just to give you, and this might be a little sidetrack, but just the idea of what Americans embrace. I remember my ex at one time, she worked at Bell South, and they had shipped all their jobs over to India. You know what I'm saying? But in that process, what they said was, you're going to lose your job, but if you like a little 3 or 4 month vacation, we'll pay you to go over there and train them for your job. Now, we're not going to provide you with any housing or anything. You still got to pay rent. We're going to pay you, but you're not, it's not like you're going to have free housing.
Same thing with contractors.
Well, this was the crazy thing. Now, when they were giving them the rundown on the cultural differences, now they're losing their jobs, and they're going to pay for their own housing and food and everything. and you're training people to take over your job. You know what I'm saying? So there's one lady, they were telling them, like, one of the things you're not going to be able to do over there is wear these cleavage and stuff out. That's not acceptable over there. Do you know there was this female who went ballistic? And this is what she put her foot down on, that she wasn't going to be able to walk around with her titties out. You know what I'm saying? You're losing your job.
Don't say titties we have.
I'm sorry. And eye candy at that. I'm so sorry. We're supposed to be extra respectful.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't want to disrespect anyone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By using, you know,
breastises.
You do?
I see it a lot
Yeah.
in the business that I'm in. So
Let's talk about that real quick. You know,
Okay, go ahead.
my man, Ed Ball over here, What Matters Films. You got to
Introduce her again.
And
Keela
Berry. And we
Keela
get
Berry?
her on camera. Her.
She
There we
is.
go.
Is that-
There we
she
go.
is?
You don't have to bring it back to us. We can just talk. Ed, go ahead. You got a Sister Ninja? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, basically, it's a new TV series that we pushing. It was a comic book back in the early 2000s, and you know, as I got deep into the film business, and you know, I seen what they call the attack on women. You know, and they call it Michelle, a woman, the angry black woman. You know, I kind of felt it was time to put something out there that was positive image for women, black and white, that was in a positive manner. And what basically Sister Ninja is about three sisters. They're going to be attending Life University, which is the actual university here in Atlanta, chiropractic and natural health. Basically, what they're going to be dealing with is everyday situations like, you know, sorority life, dating, you know, peer pressure. It's going to be a very intense series. They're going to be basically doing their school thing, their college life, and by night, they're protecting the streets of the ATL. It's a force that's trying to bring on a new world order into the mix and trying to make this global change and become a one world system. And it's basically who's all behind it is a corporation called Neuropathogenics. And Neuropathogenics has their, kind of like what we're talking about right now, they have their hands in everything: food, politics, you know, media, network, anything that this company can get their hands into and control, they're doing it. And they're going to be based out of Atlanta, and they're going to be bringing in a lot. They're going to be trying to take over the political system here in the city and spread out from there.
This is so, but this is like, but it's comic book stuff, so it's kind of like, so they'll be like fighting the bad guys, so to speak.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, it'll be different. They'll have different nemesis out there, but like a lot of stuff will be experiments gone bad from the pharmaceutical company. You know,
creating some type of mutinous.
Yeah, like we're gonna have one episode which is about immigration, and that episode basically is gonna be about this Neuropathogenics has they go to the border and they help these immigrants cross and they help speed their paperwork up, but at the same time they're undocumented, so they're going to be doing experiments while they're getting them so-called through the process. And they'll be having some altercations with some of them and creating some people that they really don't want. And then like another big thing in Atlanta is the sex trade, and with it having a little spin with the Illuminati and the music industry and all of that, the corporation has a science group that deals with the neurons of the brain, and so they're going to be manipulating the beats and the music. So it's going to be this DJ that's taking.
So that's a true story then. That's what's going on now.
Yeah, it's technically it is. And what's going to happen? The DJ is going to be taking these kids and abducting them. You know, by beats of the music, he's going to be getting into their brains and taking them away.
Because music is not acoustic no more; it's all electronic.
Yeah, so that's basically. And one thing about the show, we want the show. We wanted to have. I'm a big fan of Smallville, so I wanted to have that fantasy, but at the same time, I'm dealing with the African American community, so we like stuff real. You know, so I gotta have it real and fantasy at the same time. I want the girl next door to say, "Hey, I'm a Sister Ninja." You know, anybody can be a Sister Ninja. You know, it's gonna be
a Sister Ninja, or are you a proprietor of the Sister Ninja? What is her role?
Production assistant.
She's a production assistant. Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Very interesting. When you start shooting.
We start shooting this weekend, as a matter of fact.
Okay, okay.
So definitely,
Any extras?
some things going. Oh, most definitely. We're gonna start some casting out there.
I can wear a Batman uniform. You know what I'm saying? Be fighting crime in the alley somewhere.
And they're gonna be based out of Stone Mountain, so we're gonna make that like the icon. So
Memorial Drive.
I'm not laughing at what you're doing. I'm laughing at everything else that goes along with it. Whatnot, because doing it at the Stone Mountain is just ironic.
Yeah, that's gonna if Chicago has their icon. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So I want Sister Ninja Atlanta is a city that should have their own icon. And these young ladies,
how many of them is it?
It's three sisters.
The names?
Linda, Connie, and Stacy.
And they have special. Each one has special skills.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna have special skills.
Where's her talent?
Oh man, yeah, they're gonna have special skills, and it's basically gonna be showing these women grow. It's gonna be showing growth in them as women, as sisters, and as figures of power.
Now, are they like Batman in the sense that he just has a whole bunch of tools, or they be like Superman, who's just like some thing from another planet?
They have the tools, but they also have some supernatural ability. They have some accelerated strength, martial arts. It was this ancient artifact called the Dragon's Claw that the Illuminati wants, that they know gives some great power, and they want that, and they'll go about it at all costs to bring on this new world order.
The Dragon's Claw. Okay, that's real, or that's in the story? Because when people start talking about the Illuminati, I'm not sure where fantasy and
it's that right there is the fantasy part, but I'm gonna step on a lot of toes. So I just want to say, if I get sick or start running around the streets naked after a while, y'all know that something happened. You
on record right now saying it.
Because I'm gonna step on some toes.
I got one question for you. You got the soundtrack already worked out?
We working on it, but I'm always
Superb right here.
All right,
get in there.
Superb. This is the man to talk to. Because this is some superhuman stuff going on behind the board. It's like it's like Narnia over there. I'm like, I don't know what goes
on. But right, and the company Moroso, they're gonna be one of the sponsors in it. Yeah, you can bring in, and they're
Is it say something that we always have people bringing in alcohol?
they're a female
this is beer, right?
singing group out of London, which are bringing over their beer from the UK over to here, and it's going to be distributed by Anheuser-Busch.
What's that called?
Moroso. It's an Italian beer, it says.
Yeah, and it's a very smooth beer. It's
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to try it. You're gonna have to let
5.2% alcohol.
Yeah,
it's right up there with Ice House.
Yeah. That's the regular or the lemon?
That's the regular, but it's a lemon. The lemon is very good. I see women prefer the lemon. I've been seeing as we've been doing it, but they'll have some product placement inside of the show and everything, and it's great. It won't be anything crazy, but it's gonna be a great.
So where will they be on Memorial Drive? Where will they be purchasing Mimosa?
Well, no, we're gonna be on Stone Mountain. We're gonna be on the top of Stone Mountain.
I'm just saying, you gonna. This is all. I mean, they gonna be at the. I thought you were talking about that Citgo across from the. Across from Savannah Suites.
Why couldn't it be on Pace's Ferry? Why they couldn't sell it on Pace's Ferry?
Pace's Ferry, that's a Stone Mountain?
No.
Oh, that's what I'm
Atlanta?
saying. No, we're saying the product placement in the show. The show's gonna be taking place, but you said on Stone Mountain. Now,
well, their headquarters is gonna be on Stone Mountain, but they'll be at different places. Like one of the girls is gonna work at the Green Room.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'll say the answer because you never asked the question. You know why it's not on East Pace's Ferry?
Mimosa.
That would be. Believe me, that would be.
This could be on. This is a green bottle. That could be on.
No, I didn't say it couldn't be. I didn't say it couldn't be.
Yeah, that's a green
saying
bottle.
We all know in this room why I would.
Morosa?
And Morosa is, if you want to come out and try it, Morosa is always down on Thursday nights from 7 to 10 at the Millennium Gate Museum right there at Atlantic Station. It's like the big arch. A lot of people don't know that's a museum. But they give out free beer there every week.
You wrong for saying that, right?
Free beer?
I didn't know
we think things in there, but you can't see when you say it, you know what I'm saying?
And where's it at again?
The Millennium, right at Atlantic Station where the street forks and it's like a big arch in the middle of
yeah.
That's a actual museum right there, and that's where they have. It's right now
with
the
free
lake.
beer from 7 to 10 every Thursday.
Every Thursday night.
Okay.
And it's hosted by C Fox.
I'm all about art now.
It's hosted by C Fox Entertainment.
I'm always about supporting the art. So
yeah, most definitely.
Right. You know what I'm saying? We'll make sure that we'll be in attendance. 3 hours of free beer. Yes. That almost be irresponsible. You know what I'm saying? Like, that seems like I could be a liability.
Well, they have music and they have different things going on. They take pictures and stuff down there, and it's hosted by C Fox Entertainment, C Fox Productions. So you can look them up online on their website. It's a great outing, great connection.
Man, that sounds dope. Yeah. Free beer. I did a show. I was part of this production with Lexus. Did this show on TV One, Versus and Flow, and they provided an open bar. I mean, top shelf open bar. I was sitting there like, I walked in there, almost had a heart attack. Like, all this was for free, and they didn't want the tips. You weren't even like there wasn't even a tip jar out. I mean, Lexus did it all the way 100. You know what I'm saying? Like they, in fact, I was the first. Everybody a little boozy. Everybody in there drinking wine, and I was. They got a big thing of just all these different beers. I said, let me get a Heineken. He said, in 3 days you the first one to get a beer. You know what I'm saying? Wow. And I was like, okay, I'll gladly take them off your head. You know what I'm saying? Man, I was popped 2 days in a row. You know what I'm saying? For free. You know what I'm saying? But, that's the art in me. I like to make sure that I support the arts. You know what I'm saying? And our local talent. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm all about. You know what I'm saying? So you're a production assistant. What does that entail for people who...
Production
you just his right-hand man?
Basically just means that anything that is of need with the production, and you assist with getting it handled, getting it together, making sure people are in place, there are beverages, food, what have you is needed for the production, that you are the second person to go about getting it, fulfilled.
She the only one? There's several of them?
It's several of them, but that's not all she does. She's also her secret identity. That's a secret.
I knew it was a secret identity.
But she's a real estate mogul.
Oh, really?
Yes. So she knew when we were talking about you should have seen when we were talking about the American Dream and everything. Yeah. She knows all about that.
Yeah. One of the big things. What do you think? I was just reading this article this morning about a lot of these communities these subdivisions are turning into rental places, and a lot of people some people are upset about it. Like where it was, people feel like I spent a lot of money for my home. I don't want to live around a lot of renters. Are you running across that?
Well, I mean, in this economy, there is twofold. You have those people that are, moving into a subdivision with their families to settle down, and then you have some that, for, unfortunately cannot afford their home anymore and cannot afford to sell it. So short sales are not, conducive to their name. It doesn't mean that it takes a shorter amount of time to sell the property. What it means is that the bank has accepted a short amount of money to liquidate that property versus what the payoff is.
Exactly.
And so it's twofold. It's not only that the buyer has to qualify to purchase that home, but the seller has to qualify in a hardship to sell that home to them at a price point that is lower than what they mortgaged it for, because they have to get loan forgiveness. And at the end of the day, they can be disqualified up until the time they sign on the dotted line at closing.
Really?
So their only option sometimes is to rent the property out, but therein lies qualification. And so renters can't get mad when you tell them I got to pull a credit, a background, and and pull your references, because there are other people in that neighborhood that you have to protect that have children. So you don't want a pedophile moving in. You don't want someone who moves in for a month and then doesn't pay for 2 more months because they know it's going to take you 2 months to get out. And evict them, and then have all their stuff sitting on the front yard. So therein lies, it's the economy. And if everybody just gets on board and you put a renter in there who's going to keep the property up, they won't even miss a beat.
That seems in the article, that seems to be the biggest complaint, is people saying that well, people, now I got people working on their car in the front yard and stuff like, things.
Well, that's where you have to police the property, and in your lease you must note that you'll be doing random inspections. with a notice, of course, but you will be doing random inspections to make sure that, yes, the yard is kept up. Yes, the exterior of the property is not falling apart. And the interior of the property, you haven't gone about, painting, pink and blue and all kind of other stuff without notice.
Yeah.
So.
The economy is definitely changing the landscape of a lot of these, because a lot of these subdivisions, they just, when it was booming, they were just popping up everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And 3 years down, 4 years down, now you got whole blocks, whole streets of, every third house is, empty. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is, like you were saying, we qualified for a lot of the no-doc loans. People who didn't qualify were getting loans and just trying to live like, someone that they were not. Now, my thing is trying to educate people. Instead of trying to sit on top of your nest egg, why not take that nest egg and purchase you a house for cash? Because if we haven't learned anything out of this devastation, it's that we need to start using our money to purchase and hold the deed and title to things. Because, let's say you mortgage a home and then you lose your job. What's to say, even though prices are low right now and you still paying a less amount that you would pay, if you had mortgaged it in 2007 or what have you, somebody else owns the deed to your home. You don't own it. And so why not, buy it cash? Even if you're an investor, buy it cash. Take your 401k, your Roth, and buy it cash.
But a lot of people, that goes against what they've been taught, because even dealing with a lot of people that I've had previous dealings with, but not dealing with real estate, they've always used the the same frame of mind. Yeah, it's like you was always taught never to use your own money. So and that's what started. My whole thing was, well, damn, you got $400,000 or $500,000 in liquid, like like you can go right now to the bank, write it, cash it, and go on about your business to get this property. Why would you do that? Well, no, I don't use my money. You never use your money to make money. Why would you use your money to make money?
Well, look at all those people who didn't use their money.
Exactly, but
now they losing money.
And it's not a racial thing. This is, I got white people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what they were always trying to beat in me. And we have to have heated arguments about this.
I say all the time, you can have all the degrees in the world. You can get a degree from Yale, Harvard, Princeton, whatever, but common sense is not so common. Okay, sometimes you have to know to think for yourself. Right now, there are houses out there for $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. You'd be a fool not to buy it cash.
Right.
And then
why not?
Turn around and rent it out and put money back in to your nest egg and do the same thing. And then you can rent it to someone who can't qualify at this time to purchase. Help them work on their credit and flip them the house. Okay, you can make money that way. You can make money renting it out, but not to use your money. We take gambling investments all the time. People go to Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas. They use their own money then.
That was my argument.
Okay. And then might not work out with anything.
They're like, okay, hey man, you going to Vegas every weekend, you going to Hawaii, you going to Cancun doing this. You go out there gambling. The first thing they do when they get off the plane, where the gambling spots at?
You're
just giving your money away then. At least you have something tangible.
Who money was they using then if they weren't using their money to make money?
Right.
Okay.
But Vegas is about the experience. But I know what you mean. I feel you. No, it is. You go to Vegas for the experience.
Being a real estate investor is about the experience as well.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to broaden our portfolio. It's not all about these blue chip stocks and all of that. You have to put your money in different avenues.
That's funny you said that. In the Great Recession, black people lost the majority of our wealth because most of our wealth was invested in our homes. And not, like you said, diversified into other things. So when the prices of houses fell, we lost a lot of our wealth. We had most of our wealth tied up in that, and not in certain stocks and certain IRA accounts and things like that. So that being diversified and because that was the the golden egg for a long time. You get you a house first, you know,
you
that
can
first
talk
thing you
this
did,
like-
just take that
Yeah.
equity
Yeah,
out.
take
Now
equity
you
out.
done got you a motorcycle, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I mean.
But
People,
now-
jewelry.
yeah, you know what I
But now
mean.
we're at prices of 1997.
Right.
And so right now is the time to buy. And just a heads up to everyone, this is going to be the last year that you see prices this low.
Man, you were right on it because
Yeah.
they were just watching that. They were saying
Yeah,
like you're not
so
going to
too.
see like interest rates are as low as they're going to be. You're not going to see that again for probably in our lifetime. That's
Right.
the exact words they said. If you're gonna buy it, this is the time to do it.
They told the $1 million investors this last year. So if you're not on it, you only got 6 more months to try to get on it. You know, because these homes, and don't sit there and think about it, because when you go with a realtor to walk around a property and you go, oh, I'm going home, I'll think about it, I'll let you know tomorrow. Well,
No.
somebody has already seen this property yesterday and thought about it last night, and they're getting back with their realtor today.
Quick,
so tomorrow it may not be available.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in the chat room real quick. Cast 12 says in some cases you can leverage other people's money for bigger profits, but you have to know what you're doing, and in not at all situations. S. Rainer says having tangible assets is where it's at. Owning land now is a good time to buy land. What do you think about buying land?
Land is a good thing to do, but if you're not a developer, you're going to have to turn around and either flip it to a developer, or you're going to have to do something. Because just sitting there, the upkeep, the taxes,
Just having plots of land.
you see what I'm
It's
saying?
not it's not making you any money.
Exactly,
beneficial, right?
unless you are a developer, a real
Unless you
estate
know Coca-Cola
developer.
want to buy this land and you get it right before
You
they
know?
do.
Or you have a relative that happens to build houses.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, you know, everybody who's new to the real estate game cannot just do land, you know, or unless you want to do farming. And then that way you go rural with it.
Do you think that was part of the part of the bubble as well, that everybody became real estate people? Like everybody, everybody was flipping houses, like just
like my
cat with a GED was like, yo, I'm flipping houses, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, basically, I'm gonna put a coat of paint, add some lights, and add 50,000 to the price tag. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Y'all can move in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Interest only loans.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm only gonna pay
That
interest.
kinda-
I'm not changing the carpet, nothing.
Yeah,
It was
that-
the adjustable rate mortgages and the interest only loans.
Yeah, I said,
Right.
say, you know, this $100,000 house, I added some paint, and it's about 135 now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then the next person buys it, does the same thing. You still got the same $100,000 house, but now it's, you know, inflated with no real value to it. You know what I'm
Or
saying?
they done hooked up with an appraiser and slid him some money.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Everybody was doing that too. That was another thing.
It was-
Well, now we can't, as a realtor, you can't even talk
To an
the
appraiser. Because people know you know, and that was the thing of regulation.
Yeah.
And when you had this wild cowboy stuff going on, this is the big thing. Like you can't blame
Big
the
government.
big people and just the little people. Everybody had their
Everybody was
hand
doing
out. It was just everybody was getting it in
Mortgage
until one
brokers.
day somebody said,
like my homegirl, right? She had a house built over by Turner Field. The contractor that built the house, the realtor, and the builder were all in the same communicate with each other. I said, went to a meeting. I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea because somebody gonna lose. Right? I said, out of this table right here, somebody get ready to lose. I heard why you always
You
negative.
hating. You
What's being
hating.
negative. You know, you hating because you ain't involved.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, no, I'm not hating because I'm involved. I said, I'm just saying how it is. Somebody at the sitting this table right here is gonna lose their ass. And fast forward 9 months later, is when the bottom fell out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everybody got missing. But she, you know, my homegirl, she had A1 credit, and that's what they were. That's what
everybody was banking on. You get that young, yeah.
The builder didn't have the credit, and the real estate agent didn't have the credit to flip it. So it's like,
Well, now
I'm
it's
saying?
it's a good time to purchase in areas where you know that they're coming in and doing some development, like right around
new development or
new
just
development,
okay.
you know, or changing the development. Like everybody wanted to move out around from the AU Center
Right.
when Walmart, I mean not
Publix.
Publix pulled out,
Right.
but they don't know that Walmart is going to put a super center right there. And
Yeah.
so that's going to be a booming area, you know. And then down by the Beltline, they're giving grants away, down payment assistance for you to buy out there, you know. And so there's money out here. We just, you know, no one's talking about it. Well, the wrong people are talking about it. Sometimes you got to get the right people in who really need the money, because if not, then the wrong people get the money who don't need it. You know, and that's where we are right now. Atlanta Housing Authority giving away, grants. ADA is also. You just have to be able to ask for it because they're not just going to give it to you. And then you have to qualify. A lot of people don't know that that's a second lien on your home. Okay, because along with these grants, you have to take a first-time home buyers class or some type of purchasing class. And then you have to close separately from the closing. They may give you $10,000, $15,000. You can do it consecutively with 2 or 3, but each one is a different lien on the house and a different closing.
Now, do you have to have a certain credit rating before even all this occurs?
Well, yes, you do have to pre-qualify. So, you know, in order to get the pre-approval for it, they want to make sure that you will pay your bills on time and everything, because they don't want to just give the money to someone and then, you know, it falls through.
Right.
You have to live in that particular property for at least 10 years, or they will come back and ask you to reimburse them for the grant that they
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can't just turn around and flip it.
Exactly.
Which was what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild cowboy stuff.
Like I say, it's like I couldn't believe the conversation when I walked in there and I was sitting in the meeting. I'm like, okay, and everybody handed me that card. I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah,
this can't be good.
Too many conflicts of interest.
Then a few months after that, I go into my barbershop to get my hair cut. Hey, Herb, man, you know I'm doing real estate right now. So I got a couple classes left. I'm like, and I'm not being stereotypical. I'm like, nigga, you doing real estate?
Yeah.
I say get with the realtor and check their background. If they have no experience, ask them what their experience is that's listed up under them. You want to know if they have experience with first-time home buyers, with relocation, with small investments. You know, you want to know these things. You want to know who are their constituents. Who do you work with? What kind of force do you have behind you? What type of resources can you offer me as your client, you know, for working with you? You know, ask them all the pertinent questions, because then, you know, this real estate business, these are the people that are talking on your behalf, that are negotiating the contracts. And a lot of people in our community are like, oh, I don't need a realtor. I don't want to pay the fees and this, that, and the other. And that's the worst thing you could do, because you have no negotiating power with the banks. Okay, and they could save you thousands of dollars. I got a client under contract right now for a house, $5,500. $5,500 cash. You know, but that's the power of negotiating. That's the power of a realtor. You see, so when you thinking, oh, I can do this, I can negotiate. Okay, you went to school for accounting. You went to school for business. We went to school for real estate. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Stay in your lane and let me do my job.
Come on. We got to get you back on the show again sometime.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah. Like soon. Yeah, that would be that's a show that
I got like 100 questions.
Yeah. That would be a great show. What time we got here?
About almost time to sign off.
But
we told you you're going to, be involved in the conversation.
Yeah,
we appreciate
she came in like, I ain't want to get all this
talk
over here. Got a whole lot of stuff
it's
to
just
talk
that
about.
I like to take the back seat.
Yeah,
you know,
please.
when it's my turn, I'll say something.
Give out the websites, Facebooks.
Oh, most definitely. You can check us out at Sista Ninja TV series on Facebook, facebook.com/Sista Ninja TV series. And Sista is not SISTR, it's SISTA, Sista
Ninja.
And you can check us out on that. Also, SistaNinja.com.
SistaNinja.com.
And definitely join the social network there. We're building a community, and we'll start bringing out the first promos and trailers will start showing next week. So
that's what's up.
Definitely stay tuned for that.
And this is the nighttime uniforms, right?
Yeah, that's how they're gonna look.
Differentiate between nighttime and daytime uniforms.
Well, they got different identities in the daytime.
Yeah,
right?
they just college girls in by day.
Okay, so at nighttime they change into these.
Yeah, more mysterious and.
Got it.
You walk around on Memorial Drive with a mask on your face, somebody gonna come see you. The Cab County gonna have something to say about that. Hey! You can't just be walking around here with your face covered up.
Definitely, and I've got to give a shout out to my cover girls that are part of Sista Ninja. They're the sorority girls that really don't like Sista Ninja, and they're gonna give them a hard time during the series and everything. So shout out to the cover girls, Veronica.
What sorority are they? Is their name the sorority is Cover Girls on this TV show?
Yeah, they're gonna end up becoming villains. I'm just giving you a little spoiler. Okay. But they're gonna definitely be the girls you love to hate
from the AUC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. That won't be hard to find. That'll be
not at all.
Oh man. Well, hey, you can go out on a song if we want. I'm gonna be doing some at the little kids.
Information
also. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I'm Keila Berry, and I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker. You can get me on Twitter at Keila.Berry or on Facebook at facebook.com/Keila.Berry. That's Berry, and Keila is Keyla. So it's Keila.Berry.5.
Dot what? 5. All right. Anything new opening up for us? Where's the new property that you want to slang?
That was my number one question. I know she knows.
Well, you can go to my website. You know, I'm on ColdwellBankerAtlanta.com/Keila. Keila.Berry. So I mean, you can put in a search, and there are a plethora of properties. I don't promote just one. I have thousands. I'm all over. I'm not local. I'm global. So if you want a home in Puerto Rico, Europe, wherever, I can certainly assist you with that.
Okay. Ed don't be playing with no, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be getting it in. You want to run in my circle. I heard that.
Oh, it's global domination, baby.
Through Sister Ninjas.
That's right.
You know, you got any karate skills too?
I've got crazy skills.
Ooh, I ain't gonna touch that one.
Now with that, we sign off. Go ahead and sign off.
Yeah.
I can run, I can race for hours and hours and don't stop. I can float, I can fly us to the highest mountain tops. I can breathe you, I can drink in your laugh, I can live on your smile. I can trip, but if I can fall into your arms, I can stay there.